My name's Jim Holohan, and I want to welcome you to the Lakeshore Unitarian Universalist Fellowship today. We will begin our service with our gathering song, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. I want to welcome everyone this morning to our service. This is the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, and I want to just briefly go over a little about what we're about. We're a group of people who come together with a covenant. The covenant is a commitment to support each other. And our beliefs are not in a dogmatic sense. We have 8 principles that guide our community and our covenant. And we're basically about supporting each other in our spiritual paths. And there's no requirement that everybody has to believe the same thing. The important thing is we acknowledge each person's spiritual path, whatever that is, and we talk and dialogue and support each other across differences. That's, I think, what's made this community so unique for me. So I want to welcome Michael and Marilyn, 2 new visitors here today. Thank you for coming. I want to take a moment and do a special dedication today. We lost an important member of our congregation this week. Gary unexpectedly passed away on Monday. He was someone who touched, I think, every soul in this community, and so I want to just take a moment to acknowledge his passing and dedicate this service today to Gary. Okay. And it's important as we talk about Gary that we also think about the relationships that we had with him. Because he touched each of our lives. And what our theme is for this month is really cultivating relationship. So it's really appropriate as we explore that theme, and we will do it in a variety of different with a variety of different speakers. So before we go into the chalice lighting, I wanted to just share a brief thought. What is it that gives you the power to make that change, to answer that question, to take that journey? It is relationship, the beating heart of our flame, of our faith. Move on to the chalice lighting. We light this chalice as a symbol of our commitment to our fellowship and to each other. May our many sparks meet and merge in communion of heart and soul.
Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to share strength and fellowship, thus do we covenant.
And the opening words today, we come together this morning because within us there is something that knows we need more than we can find in our aloneness. We know instinctively in the depths of ourselves that we need others for this journey of life, even though we also guard our independence and individuality quite jealously. So let us celebrate all that makes us unique, yet also all that makes us one, and let us dream dreams of all that we can do together. And our opening song is Stand By Me.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we see, no, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. Oh, darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. If the sky we look upon should tumble and fall, or the mountains should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear. Just as long as you stand by me. Oh, darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me, stand by me, stand by me, stand by me.
And we come to the time of our service where we have an opportunity to share joys and concerns. So Kim, if you'll turn the recording off for this section. Okay, at this time I'd like to ask Jennifer to share with us the reading.
The reading today is called The Peace of Wild Things by Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drakes rest his beauty on the water. and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water. And I feel above me the day blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of this world and am free.
It's my opportunity now to introduce Jim Neilson. Jim is an assistant professor of art at Saint Norbert's College. He's also a chaplain at the Green Bay
Correctional Institute.
Facility, a maximum security facility in Green Bay. And he's a longtime friend of the fellowships. He speaks to us a couple times a year, and he always comes with an incredible perspective using art and touches our souls. So, Jim, go ahead.
Well, hello, everyone. It is a joy to be back here with all of you. And please let me first say that I join my heart with all of yours at Gary's passing. And so know that you've all been in my thoughts. In fact, you've totally been in my thoughts because I just drove by the fellowship on Friday night. I was down in Manitowoc to act as judge at the Roar West Museum for a new exhibition of paintings. And it's a lovely collection of work. And some of you may know the artists, I'm guessing, so I would highly recommend that. Today we're going to speak or look at thoughts about celebrating our 5 natural senses, believing that we can cultivate relationship with self, other, the cosmos, and the earth by being more celebratory and grateful for the 5 natural senses. This gives us an opportunity, friends, to become earth-ecstatics, stargazers, and guardians of nature. You don't have to be all 3, but maybe you could be one of them. And maybe this could evolve over time. So what do we know about the senses? They reveal and affirm who we are and who the other is. Think how we rely on the senses, all of them, all the time. They influence our choices and they excite our desires. The senses, they act as the catalyst for wonder, joy, and awe. And now more than ever, wonder, joy, and awe, I think, is not only an act of resistance, it's an act of survival. It's what we do most naturally. And to cultivate that, I think, is holy work. Speaking of the senses, does anybody remember this bottle? Has anyone seen this? You have a show of hands? Right. If your grandfather hadn't worn this, you wouldn't be here, friends. That's not too irreverent, I hope. I think it's true in my case. Let's talk about a primary sense, touch. Touch seems to be as essential as sunlight. We need this, friends. Without touch, we have failure to thrive. Like a plant requires the sun to grow, so we need touch to affirm who and how we are in the world. And to think of how the body remembers how the body's been embraced. Perhaps none of us remember our parents embracing us as children, but our body does. Skin is the organ of touch, and touch is everywhere. Even that lovely song by Tracy Chapman, Stand By Me, as we stand next to one another, we might touch elbows or shoulders. And so there's that reaction, that exquisite moment of awareness of another, a quiet relationship beginning. Smell, an essential part of our lives. Smell, I feel, is always on the tip of our tongues, but no closer. How do we best describe smells? I think words fail us oftentimes. Friends, you can see the picture by a show of hands. Who remembers sleeping on sheets that have been air dried in the backyard? There is something magical, mysterious about that. And I long for that. I mean, I should really take it upon myself to do that because I just think my dreams would be sweeter. I can't say that's scientific, but it's poetic. And there's always truth in poetry. But just the side of this, friends, is an affirmation of what smell confirms and how smell reminds me of relationships past. How people who have loved me did this for me and made my life sweeter. I think scent summons memories unbidden. I can walk into the room, and if there's a certain fragrance, it takes me back in time. I'm a time traveler through my nose. Now, these are 3 fragrances that I occasionally wear selfishly because they remind me of my boyhood. I bet some of you might have followed your dad as he was mowing the grass with that blade that went around, and it was like a confetti of grass that was going, and it smelled so good. I can remember touching my dad's back as I followed him and that smell of grass. So when I miss him, I sometimes put this on, and then strangely, wonderfully, blessedly, he's there. Dirt. I know I'm a little weird, but I don't think anything smells better than springtime dirt. It's just the promise of new life and possibility. And as I get older, I get a lot more comfortable with how dirt is just the best smell ever. And then tomato, friends, that is a rarefied fragrance that we can only enjoy for a few weeks late August when tomatoes finally taste like tomatoes. And so sometimes it's not bad to smell like a tomato, I suppose. I think when we give perfume to someone, we're giving them liquid memory. If I were to walk into the fellowship and somebody were wearing Shalimar, that's what my mother wore. And I recall that she would be present in that moment. I know she's gone, but for that nanosecond, there is that exquisite relationship again present. Shalimar. Anybody know the fragrance Shalimar? I think it's not so popular today, but I think it was a big deal in the 50s and 60s. How about sight? I'm quoting Alice Walker, who wrote the lovely novel, The Color Purple, which I bet many of you have either read or you saw the movie. Alice says this: I think it pisses God off if you walk by the color purple in a field somewhere and don't notice it. Friends, this is why we have eyes, to notice the color purple, to be stopped in our tracks by it. Now, this is an image in the south of France from Provence, but we can find purple right here in Northeast Wisconsin. All we have to do is drive up to Washington Island to the Fragrant Isle Lavender Farm. Friends, this is like being bodily assumed into heaven. This is a feast for the senses. And it's come to my attention that there are actually lavender farms closer to us, some very near Manitowoc, as a matter of fact. And so purple all around us to delight the senses and create new memories and cultivate a relationship with the earth. If purple's not your color, yellow might be, and I cannot recommend more highly a pilgrimage, a journey, a visit, an afternoon drive in the late summer to Cecil, Wisconsin, to the Berg's Bacon Farm sunflower fields. This is like nothing I've ever seen in my life. It is literally an ocean of sunflowers. It took my breath away. And sometimes that's really good when you're sort of gasping at something so natural, so amazing, so glorious. And it's only there for such a short period of time. I'd love to know by a show of hands, how many have been to Cecil to see this? Wonderful. Now there's something to do. Now there's something to put on the calendar for next summer. Friends, you will not be disappointed at the spectacle of this. Trust me, there's method behind my madness here. If you can, take a look at your feet right now, friends. Just look at your feet. You know what you're seeing? You're standing in the sky. And you're going, no, I'm not, Jim. I couldn't be standing in the sky. But in fact, you are. When we think of the sky, we tend to look up. But the sky actually begins at the earth. We're walking through the sky. We're yelling through it. We rake leaves in the sky. We walk our dog through the sky. We drive our cars in the sky, friends. It's all perspective. It's all point of view. It's all about wonder at how and where we are right now. Yeah, you're all at home, but you're part of the sky too right now. We breathe it deep within us, the sky, the cosmos, all the times. I wish I could attribute this to my own insight. These are the words of Diane Ackerman. And if you're looking for an absolute excellent read this fall, when the weather's a little crisp and you might have a fire at home, A Natural History of the Senses. It was written a number of years ago in 1990. I read it in graduate school. It literally changed the trajectory of my career. This is a book that is so stimulating that I can't not recommend it to absolutely everyone. So A Natural History of the Senses by Diane Ackerman, brilliant. How about sound, the sense of sound, or how we hear? This is a really interesting theory, and I think there's great truth to this. Music may be an actual language, developed about the same time as speech. Now, as a way to discern this, the veracity of such a statement, friends, have you ever hummed to a child rather than speak an erudite phrase to that child? We seem to have this in our bones, to sing, to be music makers. And I love that you begin your gathering with a song that I've come to associate intimately with each and every one of you. I have never before heard Enter, Rejoice, and Come In until the first time that I came into the fellowship. That is sealed in my gray matter. I think music, friends, that's the perfume of hearing. And some musicologists suggest this began as a religious act to arouse groups of people, to cultivate right relationship with one another as a community, as a whole, to know one better, singing to one another. That's just lovely. Within Christian tradition, there's a wonderful thought that to sing is to pray twice. It's a double dividend. It's just good business to sing. I did a little research on Enter, Rejoice, and Come In, and I'm sure everyone at the fellowship already knows this, but it was new to me. This is based on one of the Psalms. There are 150 Psalms in Hebrew scripture. Psalm 100, that is the basis for this. And so this sentiment, this music, this has been sung throughout generations, thousands of years. Taste, there's an essential sense. The other senses can all be enjoyed in all their beauty while we're alone. But I think that taste is largely social because we tend to gravitate towards the community for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. There's something about sharing a meal that enhances the flavor of what it is that we eat. The conviviality sometimes is greater. Now, I've been a bachelor like a long time, and I've eaten my fair share of meals over the stove from the pan. So don't get me wrong on this. Taste, however, I just think is heightened when we can enjoy that in the company of others. Now, this is an icon of Western art history. You've all seen this meal. It's a very improbable meal. All these people could not fit at this table, by the way, if you look at this carefully. And I don't mean to be disrespectful or blasphemous, but it's an illusion on a lot of different levels, but it is packed with meaning as well. If we can look at that meal, let's look at the meal below. This is a meal that's annually shared on the 17th of December, and it has been for the last couple of years. You might recognize the guest on the far right. That is Pope Francis, who is doing his level best to wake up the Catholic Church in more ways than one. I can say that because I'm a member. And I would love to sit at his table once. But you know why the 17th of December is so important? That's his birthday. And what the Pope does on his birthday is he invites Rome's homeless to a table to enjoy breakfast together. He does that so that we might imagine on our birthdays, could we share a meal with those who might miss the table the most? And I love a good role model, a good example. And this is one custom that I would like to adapt when I celebrate my birthday pretty soon coming up here. How I do it, I don't know yet, but this is my inspiration. Now, those of you who recognize Leonardo's masterwork, The Last Supper, perhaps have not noticed an exquisite little detail that the original hardly shows, but we rely upon seeing on duplicates, on copies of this. The figure of Judas is knocking over the salt cellar. We have spilled salt at the table. Why in the world would Leonardo do this? It's nowhere in sacred scripture. He wants us to think about taste and touch and consequence. Because he's recalling a verse from scripture, from the Gospel of Matthew, that says, "You are the salt of the earth." Now, we have a special place on our tongue that registers salt, right? And salt is useful in more ways than one. An excess of salt can be problematic, however. So it is a very significant bit of the earth here and water that we have to enjoy carefully. But why are we likened to salt? Because salt has been a symbol of permanence, loyalty, durability, fidelity, usefulness, value, and purification across time and space. Salt has inspired people around the globe from the beginning of time to think about its importance in our daily life. And so I find this to be curious. This is a salt field in Vietnam. Spilt salt, however, has been interpreted as just the opposite. Instability, betrayal, termination, disloyalty, injury, nothingness, and contamination. And so we're meant to read about this in the betrayal that's occurring over a meal. And so the salt is speaking to us, the spilled salt. Now, there were three opportunities, I thought, with a heightened sense of our sensual awareness, we could all become earth-ecstatics. Do you know who one of the greatest earth-ecstatics was? Vincent van Gogh. This is a guy whose pulse accelerated at the thought of a sunrise, whose heart quickened at the thought of the seasons changing, whose knees started to knock when he would see a bird's nest. And so this was a man, many people will say cruel things about Vincent van Gogh as being, perhaps addled a bit. I think he was an earth ecstatic. I think he was hypersensitive to the pulse of the earth, the heartbeat of Mother Earth. An earth ecstatic, their creed is very simple. All life is sacred. Life loves life. And we are, all of us, capable of improving our behavior toward one another. If that's the criteria of being an earth ecstatic, sign me up. This is something that I believe with all my heart. And sometimes this belief is substantiated and affirmed in a garden. And this is where Vincent sought healing as he dealt with his own matters of mental illness, of psychological distress. He found healing not only as an artist, but in the midst of nature, particularly in a garden. How about on being a stargazer, friends? Stargazing has allowed us to imagine ourselves beyond the restrictions so often that society imposes on us. To be a stargazer is to be free in all the wonderful ways to be free. I had an experience the other night where the astronomy professor asked me to join the class at 9 p.m. I'm usually in bed by then, to join the class that night to look at the Bella Luna, to look at the moon. And they pulled out telescopes that were the size of cannons. I could literally sit on this telescope, and I was asked to do this. Friends, I saw the moon like I have never seen the moon before, up close and personal. The absolute surface of this moon, it was like Christmas morning. The students weren't so much laughing at me as they were delighting in the thrill that I had in stargazing. I saw the 4 moons of Jupiter. I saw the rings around Saturn. This is within reach if we wish to be stargazers and have the proper lens by which to enjoy this. Now, what does it mean to be a stargazer? You're going to feel night on your skin. There will be fragrance when you're out of doors. You're going to be in the absence of light pollution. Nature will provide the soundtrack to your vision, and the lingering taste of the evening's dinner is going to be wed to that euphoric experience of the cosmos. I highly recommend, if you get the opportunity, look through a telescope. It will change everything. Be a stargazer. Vincent was a stargazer. Now, don't think of night as the absence of day, because you need to anticipate night in order to see the stars. Think of night as freedom. When we turn away from the sun and we see the dawning of far-flung galaxies. Friends, sometimes we're sun-blinded to a star-coated universe. There's so much to see if we do what's counterintuitive and go out into the night and bask under the stars, if we can see them, which for many of us means we have to move out into the country or head north, because so many of our urban environments have polluted our vision with 24/7 light. And so we miss everything that's out there. Let's not miss a thing. How about being a guardian of nature, friends? Our senses compel us to protect what we love and to rejoice in beauty all around us. All of you naturally, through all of your senses, protect what and who you love. I will not dishonor my soul with hatred, but I offer myself humbly as a guardian of nature. Now more than ever, the earth relies on each one of us to be a guardian of her beauty, of her perpetuity, of her gifts to the earth. All of us are called to be healers of misery. There's far too much misery in the world, friends. And I know from many of the fellowship's initiatives and incentives that you are all healers of misery. And perhaps I would think in your humility, you wouldn't categorize yourself like this, but I sure think of you as healers of misery. I think of you as messengers of wonder and architects of peace. This is all within reach. And I think it's closer than we ever might imagine, and our senses will affirm this. This is a little quote from 136 years ago tomorrow, written by the hand of the great earth-ecstatic Vincent van Gogh. He wrote numerous letters to his brother, and he's talking about the ecstatic experience of discovering a bird's nest. Now we're thinking, well, big deal. That is huge. That's an entire cosmos right there. That's a womb. That's a world. That is the little nest that you inhabit yourself. Vincent could not wax beautifully and created this wonderful drawing that he sent his brother. But there's a detail in this drawing that I think is exquisite. Look what he shows that I bet we would forget or not see if it weren't pointed out. There's the bird and the young. It's sort of a little hidden wish that they find a sanctuary in this nest. I love everything about nest building. Keep this in mind, the hand of Vincent thinking about this, and think of these lovely creatures in nature. In the chat, which I think some of you have access to, I would love to know if anyone recognizes this bird species. I'm sort of curious. Anybody recognize this noble bird? I'm not seeing anything in the chat yet. Sandhill crane, thank you. Somebody, who is that? Is that Patty? Thank you, Patty. Sandhill cranes. Aldo Leopold thanks you from afar for recognizing this noble creature. I would like to speak a little bit about the sandhill crane as a way to celebrate nature. We can learn a lot. What can we learn from this image, from this noble bird? We could learn this, friends. We sit on the shoulders of those who love and protect us. How many of you have had a child or a grandchild, a niece or a nephew perched upon your shoulders? Naturally, wonderfully, blissfully. They may not remember it, but the body does, and your shoulders might remember that. Sometimes looking at nature affirms what we do naturally ourselves. We naturally conform to those who love and protect us. Look how that chick just naturally follows the contours of the adult, the parent. And think maybe of your own children or grandchildren or beloved nieces and nephews, or those, particularly the teachers among us, whose students have conformed to us in a way. Now think about this too as we look at the sandhill crane. We can be infinitely, that means naturally patient, indulgent, strong, still, and disciplined. Think of what it takes for that sandhill crane not to move so that chick stays where that chick needs to be. And you know, we have more than 5 senses. You all know that, right? We have many, many. There is a 6th natural sense called the vestibular sense. That's our sense of balance, friends. And there in nature is our evidence of how beautiful that sense of balance can be. What else does this tell us? Upon research, do you know sandhill cranes, they partner for life? I think there's just something remarkable about that sort of commitment, a natural commitment. And they can partner for over 20 years together. This gives me thought to think about right relationship with others and the longevity of relationships. Do you know there's shared egg incubation with sandhill cranes? That means the mom and dad are co-parenting, shared responsibility to this. Sometimes this might defy what we think is the natural order or gendered roles in society. Oh, the sandhill cranes are here to bust up some myths about who can care for our children. Their bugle call, friends, can be heard from miles away. In the same way that your songs can be heard poetically miles away, your actions discerned from miles away. Aldo Leopold wrote of their nobility, and indeed they are. Do you know they migrate? One of the most important questions of the day is, who's allowed to move and where are they allowed to go? Maybe nature can be our guide as we discern the complexity of that question about who has a right to fly, to move somewhere else. And let's consider sandhill cranes as they migrate to Minnesota every spring. And lest we forget indigenous wisdom, earth knowledge best revealed to us in Northeast Wisconsin by Menominee culture, who looks to the sandhill crane as a guardian, a keeper of knowledge and science, creativity, and resourcefulness. Everything hints to us, friends, our senses, our intellect, our awareness of other, that to gaze upon a sandhill crane is to gaze upon our own infinite possibilities in the world. Now, just as a point of comparison, and this is really towards the end of my sharing with you, is look how similar these two images are. Oh, we have companions in nature that guide us along the ways. I think this is really, in many ways, a diptych, two images that are speaking to each other about so many similarities. This is us, friends. This is who and how we are in the world. Naturally, blessedly, wonderfully, originally. You can't see the full picture here, but Dad is doing push-ups and the little guy is balancing himself on Dad's back. I love everything about this. And there's always room for one more to climb up on Papa in this case. And everything about this is celebratory of the sense of touch and smell. This is lovely. This is us. This is who we can be. And these are images we ought to celebrate. Who and how we are in the world. So many ways to be like those sandhill cranes. And some of you might recognize this image. Anytime you see an image of the president speaking from the Oval Office, this is the image he keeps behind him on the credenza on the table behind him. That would be the president's son and grandson, the president's deceased son who served the nation, and his surviving son who is a teenager today. Friends, that's what I have to share with you today about the senses, about being guardians of nature, stargazers, and earth-ecstatics. I can't tell you what a joy it was to be thinking about you as I thought about this. And thank you for including me.
Jim, I want to thank you so much for this presentation. You have just excited all of my senses, and I feel so much just more aware of myself. So I'm looking forward to moving through my day.
Thank you.
And I want to share our closing song. This is a We Are the Earth. It is a choir that has been put together on Zoom, and I think you might enjoy it. If it's too loud, turn your volume down on your machine.
We are the earth, we speak for creation. We cannot stand by and watch its devastation. And we will not be bought, we will not be deceived. We are one, we are strong, we are the earth. We are one, we are strong, we are the earth. We are the earth, all threatened sky and waters. What legacy do we leave to our sons and daughters? And we will not be bought, we will not be deceived. We are one, we are strong, we are the earth. We are one, we are strong, we are the earth. We are the earth, and we trust each as one. Will not surrender the great glaciers to the sun. And we will not be bought, we will not be deceived. We are one, we are strong, we are the earth. We are one, we are strong, we are the earth. We are the earth, both holy and profane. Despite denials, this fragile planet we must sustain. We will not be bought, and we will not be bought. We will not be deceived. We are one, we are strong, we are the earth. We are one, we are strong, we are the earth.
We are the earth,
this earth. We are the earth.
Closing words for today. Today we return to the shelter of each other by Reverend Scott Taylor. Today we return to the shelter of each other, to arms that hold us in the midst of the storm, to voices that help us hear our own, to hearts that accept us for who we are. May we be for each other a source of safety and sending. May we offer each other both comfort and challenge. May this place of peace lead us to share peace with others. Let us begin. And our closing song is Shalom. Any questions?